allow me to introduce myself. I'm Jack Omondi, the youth advisor from Kenya, and also a project officer at Don Bosco Tech Africa. Don Bosco Tech Africa is a network of technical colleges in the sub-Saharan Africa. We have about 103 technical colleges in about 35 countries in the sub-Saharan Africa. Before I proceed much, I would like to welcome Maria, one of the community manager, to explain a bit more on the overview of the YouthPower YouthPower 2 learning and evaluation. Welcome, Mary.
Yes, thank you, Jack, for the introduction. I'm Maria Brindelmeyer. I'm the Senior Knowledge Management Specialist for YouthPower 2 Learning and Evaluation. And so just briefly, for those of you who are new to YP2LE, as we call it lovingly, it's a USAID funded program, 5 years long. We are now in our second year, and the communities of practice are a key component of the program. And so thank you so much for joining it. The learning network's purpose overall, of which the communities of practice are one of the components, is to share learnings, share experiences with each other about positive youth development. And the way that we define positive youth development is to make sure that youth has assets, that youth has agency, and youth also has the ability to contribute and do this all in an enabling environment. So those four kind of pillars are really underpinning everything we are doing in this YouthPower program. So the communities of practice, as Jack said, this is one of 3, and you can join as many as you want. We have 2 more coming up soon. Are a really big and important component of this. There is a component that's very driven by the members. So we do hope that you all contribute, you all share your experiences, and you also express what you expect from this group. So I know some of you were in the first meeting at the launch, some of you were not. Join the website, the Communities of Practice on youthpower.org, and you can exchange information there with each other and with the whole group. So with that, let me stop and hand it back to Jack. Welcome to the Communities of Practice.
Okay, thank you so much, Maria, for that overview of the YP2LE. As Maria said, this COP is member driven. So everything we do will be based on the interest of the members. And on that note, I would like just to ask Katie Pons to, she's the one handling the tech side. So maybe just to say 1 or 2 before I welcome my co-champion Lara to take us through the overview of the COP, what we have done, and also the charter, including our work plan. Katie, maybe just say 1 or 2 things before Lara comes.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Jack. And Maria did a wonderful job introducing the COP, and I'm extremely excited to be here and work with all of you. As Jack said, I've been working on the tech end, so if any questions come up about the discussion boards and exchanging and uploading resources on those, I'm happy to answer that. More information to come around that, and I'm really excited to see everything that will come out of this community of practice. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Katie. Katie is so lovely, so lovely and lively. She is very open to questions, and if you have any question regarding the tech side of the discussion groups, feel free to contact her. Let me welcome my co-champion, Lara Goldumak, to take us through the COP overview. What we have done, actually, we have done a lot since the kickoff webinar. Just to mention that we have done 2 kind of makeup sessions. One was in December and another one was in January. So I think Lara will take us through what we have done so well. Welcome, Lara.
Thank you, Jack. Yeah, Katie, if you want to just share the couple of slides we have. So Jack already mentioned what we've done. In December, we had the kickoff for this community of practice, and then we've had 2 makeup meetings, and we always offer to do a makeup meeting. So if you ever want to attend a session, but you can't because it's not at the right time, we will do at least 1 makeup, and we'll try to do it around your schedule. So the makeups tend to be smaller groups, so that's kind of fun. So what is this all about anyway? Why are we here? The idea is that we're here to improve the state of programming, and within the positive youth development framework that Maria talked about, we are specialized in youth entrepreneurship, youth employment, and private sector engagement, which are kind of 3 different things. And that's the goal of today, is we're what's called starting the conversation. We have 1 presentation on each topic. So Kiera is going to talk about youth entrepreneurship. Youssef Fennira, with a few words from Yousra El Hatib, are going to talk about private sector engagement. And youth employment in the context of agribusiness is what Francis is going to talk about. So those are the order in which we're going to have our speakers in just 1 minute. So basically, what are we supposed to do? You know, communities of practice in the past have been organized around USAID programming. And the idea is to have a group of people that speak to each other, that communicate, that talk to USAID, that tell them what we can do better, that share learning, and that talk to each other. And there has been a very explicit and intentional attempt in this community of practice to make it more inclusive. So there are a lot of people, and some of you are in this meeting, who have never participated before in a community of practice like this. There are also people who've done this for years and who work for USAID implementers and who are quite familiar with these types of things. So part of our job as facilitators is to make everybody feel welcome and to make everybody connect. But the most important thing I think you can do in the next couple weeks is give us your feedback, and we're going to try to help you to connect to who you need to connect to. This charter, you can go to the next slide, Katie, is a document that is on the YouthPower website. It is a straw man. It is not as polished as it needs to be yet, but it's a beginning. And those of you who've worked with me before are going to recognize a bit, some of the work that I have done in my career around, what do you do when you're trying to improve the state of practice? Well, first you got to get a baseline. You got to understand what's out there. So we have kind of a stock taking activity where we want to look at what programs are out there and what models are out there. And again, today our speakers are each going to give some kind of inspiring best practice examples, and they're going to share models that they've worked on. And we're going to review resources, and the idea is that there's lots of resources out there. So which of them are more important? Which of them are more relevant? Prioritizing them. What are some basic definitions that we can all agree on so that we're starting from the same concepts and we're not talking past each other about different concepts? So those are some of our first activities. And then over time, we're going to get to actually perhaps producing tools, inviting. And all along the way, if you want to go to the next one, Katie, and this is really the big thing you might want to comment on, all along the way, we will have webinars, and it is up to you to tell us, we want to hear from this kind of a speaker. We want to hear from that kind of a speaker. We want to present, we've got something to share. So we're expecting you to give input into these sessions. We did, unlike some other groups, we did not actually pre-populate the sessions. We have lots of ideas for speakers. Everybody knows I always have 100 ideas, but we're kind of holding back a little bit to hear from you what would be most relevant and useful. And then we're going to populate this as we go. And the last thing, Katie, I would ask you to share, the last slide. One of the things we're asking, and this actually came based on a request from the field. A lot of people are, operating from a developing country, and sometimes there's actually an existing program that's already been approved, that's already implementing in their country that may be working with youth. And we're asking people to send us that information. And I would also ask anybody who's on the line who is attending from USAID to send us their list of existing projects. And we can get that online as well, but you might have an easier way to get it. And the idea is that when we have small groups and we have people in certain regions, we're going to already have kind of a pre-populated little database, here are the existing projects. And this helps also for small grassroots groups that are looking to fundraise. Often there may be a project with an existing budget that's near them. So we're asking people from different countries to send us this information for your country. And when you engage with us on a small group basis, we may ask for that, or we may share it. We may say, hey, somebody already sent it in, and we'll post them as they come in. All right, that's all I have, Katie. Jack, are you ready to introduce our speakers?
Yes. Oh, thank you, Lara, for that wonderful presentation and in telling what we have done so far. Actually, we have done a lot, as Lara has mentioned, and we will do a lot as we go along. And just like I've said, the COP is member-driven, so we need a lot of active participation of our members in the discussion groups and the YP discussion groups. Kindly, if you have not registered for that, for this COP, communities of practice, I think Katie will provide a link where you can directly register to this COP or any other COP that you feel like you also joining, like Maria did say, that you can be a member of both the COPs. So let me introduce our first speaker of today for the day, and our speaker is Kiera. She'll talk about youth entrepreneurship, giving a case study of a project she did in with her team in Uganda. And let me give you a brief overview of Kiera. Kiera is a senior program manager and youth specialist at NCBA Closer. I think she'll talk more about NCBA Closer. She's managing around, let me just put it because in the public domain, around 76 million US dollars USAID resilience and economic growth in Sahel enhanced resilience register project in Niger and Burkina Faso, and also providing operational and technical support on positive youth development and resilience. Welcome, Kiera.
Thanks, Jack. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I'm really happy to be here and to talk about last mile entrepreneurs and our approach at NCBA Closer. So I'd like to start with just a definition so that we're all speaking about the same thing. When I'm talking about last mile entrepreneurs, I'm referring to local entrepreneurs that close the gap between very rural communities and more centrally located suppliers for goods and services. So there are many different terminologies used for last mile entrepreneurs. And one that I've heard frequently is like village agents or village-based agents, but paravets, community health workers, these are sector-specific versions of last mile entrepreneurs. Katie, thanks. So NCBA Closer's approach is a little bit unique. These are a few characteristics that I think differentiate our approach to others. The first is that last mile entrepreneurs are community-based. They are from the communities in which they operate. They are selected and vetted by their communities, and they respond directly to their community's needs. They are service and solution oriented. They have a bit of a social entrepreneurship angle to them. They're typically not tied to a single firm, but they are rather responsive to the community members themselves, and listen to their needs, listen to their problems, and then problem solve with them and provide solutions. They are multi-sectoral. So we've had last mile entrepreneurs in many different sectors: nutrition, agriculture, sanitation. Some last mile entrepreneurs do multiple different, they could be agriculture and nutrition, for example. And they typically bridge development private sector, and the communities by facilitating access to products, services, information, new technologies. And of course, they're entrepreneurs, so it's usually fee-based services that they are providing. We've implemented this approach in many different countries, largely in sub-Saharan Africa. You can see at the bottom. I'm going to talk about our example in Uganda, which is on the next slide. Thanks, Katie. And so this comes from this example comes from the Youth Empowered Through Agriculture project in partnership with the MasterCard Foundation, which just recently closed. It targeted out of school youth ages 15 to 24 in northern Uganda, in Dokolo, Kole, Masindi, and Kiriandongo districts. And I'm going to talk about the YETA process, but not all of our last mile entrepreneurship approaches have used this process. However, this process led to some interesting lessons learned that I'll share in a moment. So first begins with community engagement. This is actually critical for all of our programming. Youth, their parents, their communities were all engaged from the beginning. Then the young people were organized into associations and registered as associations. So this served to increase access to services and funding. And each youth association also had a village savings and loan component, which proved to be quite necessary. All the youth association members went through a rigorous 6-month training, covered a range of curricula, and I will give a shout out to Making Sense, who was our partner in a training under this program. And the curriculum covered soft skills, agri-entrepreneurship, financial literacy, sexual and reproductive health. There was also a governance component to it. And then there was 6-month structured mentorship. And the associations were given a business kit. It was an in-kind grant, and it really helped the groups to apply those skills that they had learned during their training in a hands-on way. Additional technical training was provided as needed. So if things came to the fore as being required, either the project would provide that, or they were linked to other providers. Private sector, for example, provided trainings. Not all youth that went through this process became entrepreneurs. So I'm going to focus on just the almost 6,500 youth that did, but a lot of them went into production. A lot of youth formed cooperatives and savings and credit cooperatives. But onto the next slide. For the 6,500 youth that did become entrepreneurs, we found that this model was really successful for a couple of reasons. One was, and some of the process like laid the foundations, right, for that success. And so one of the things was that community engagement right in the beginning was really critical and helped facilitate that mindset shift that was needed for youth, but actually most importantly for their communities. So we noticed that the response from the community from the beginning of the project to the end had changed markedly. Communities viewing elders in the community, really viewing youth in a more favorable light than when we started. The second thing we noted was that the group dynamic reinforced the soft skills training. So the youth associations were run democratically. They elected their own leaders. They solved their problems. Those negotiation skills, communication skills, conflict mitigation skills, all had to come into play to be a functioning association. We also noted that the VSLAs, the Village Savings and Loan Associations, were really important for the association as a source of cohesion, but very importantly as a startup capital for the enterprises, and to promote a savings culture. And I will say the young people that started their entrepreneurship businesses did not get any subsidies or grant funding or to do that. It was through that Village Savings and Loan Association mainly. And the fourth point was really critical, was that collaboration enhanced entrepreneurship. So we also learned that through the group dynamic, through working together, there was an increase in entrepreneurial activity and an increase in aspirations. Youth demonstrated that they had higher aspirations and more goal setting when they were part of their group, because they were seeing successes for other young people. They were exposed to more peer role models. And there was a lot of learning but within the association. I'd actually spoken with several youth who were receiving training from other youth who were running their successful businesses. So I just put one of the statistics there was that at the end of the project, 85% of young people had been operating their same business for over 2 years. So they were, that's an indication that they were quite sustainable at that point. Yeah, and happy to answer questions by the end during the Q&A session.
Thank you so much, Kiera, for that good presentation. And what I know our members have a lot of questions to ask. So kindly type in your questions in the chat box. And then after all the presentations, Kiera will come back and definitely will answer your questions. But of course, if you need more clarification, Kiera will also be part of the YouthPower COP. She'll be sometimes checking on what is the discussion in the YouthPower platforms. So if you haven't joined, kindly, you will meet Kiera in our discussion platforms. Our next speaker is somebody whom I would request Lara to introduce, a very prominent person that I think Lara, the person or the presenter will talk about how to engage the private sectors. Lara, kindly introduce our next speaker.
Thank you. So appropriately, to talk about private sector engagement, we have a dynamic duo here today. So we have two people who know each other well, both from North Africa. The first is Youssef Fennira, who I met a number of years ago. I was in Tunisia and I kept hearing about this guy who had these really innovative job fairs and this sustainable system that he had set up. And it was a very successful kind of job placement training effort that he did with some seed funding from GIZ, and this became sustainable over time. And I went to see him, and it was sort of a meeting of the minds. And based on this, Youssef went on to do a number of things. He was later named head of the National Employment Agency. He has just actually been named the Minister of Vocational Training, Employment, and Social Enterprise in his country. So congratulations to Youssef. He has not yet taken his functions, but he is like in that sort of interim period before he starts. And we happened to catch him this week and he agreed to join us. So thank you so much, Youssef, for being here. And we also have with us another star, Yousra El Hatib, who currently leads a regional development program in northern Morocco. The reason she's here today is that she formerly led the private sector engagement functions of a USAID Morocco Career Center program. And I introduced her to Yousef when she was in Tunisia. And it was very funny because for the first, as you know, sometimes smart people will do. We were sitting at dinner talking and the two of them are kind of like, I don't know, there's this like little bit of debating going on, and they started talking about their work. And it was like, they suddenly both turned to me. It was like maybe 10 minutes later and they're like, oh, now I see why you introduced us, because they were talking about what they were doing, engaging the private sector. So on that note, I'm going to pass it over to Yousef to tell us a little bit of his story. Thanks, Yousef.
Thank you, Lara. I'm very glad to be here. Hi, everyone. First of all, I want to apologize for my English. You know, in Tunisia, we speak French, Arabic, and then English. So I don't have the best English ever. I'm very glad to be here. I want to thank Lara because Lara and we were always talking about these 10%, the 10%, and the 10% was a kind of image to say that there is people in the international cooperation who should manage things differently. That's what I think. And maybe if you allow me for these 5-10 minutes to talk about impact, to talk about public-private partnerships and about impact, because I think that we are all living the same kind of situation, which is in our countries, we have a lot of money coming from funds from USAID, GIZ, French Corporation, etc., etc. But the question is, what is the impact according to the amount we are having in our countries? And I think that it's a big issue. Why this issue? Because we are still talking too much about quantity and not about quality. So if you analyze the projects we have, we are always putting objectives, and these objectives are like, let's create 10,000 jobs, 50,000 jobs, 100,000, 1 million, etc., etc. But are we still and enough talking about sustainability, about how we can create jobs and let them stay and be sustainable? This is a big problem, and I lived this problem when I was head of the Tunisian Employment Agency. And how we managed to solve it is to put in the front of the line the PPPs, the public partner partnerships, the public-private partnerships. How can we, as a public sector, work with the private sector and have the benefits of all the projects they are doing to give it to the public sector? Another thing which is very important is that the private sector cannot also manage to do well its projects without the public sector. Sometimes when I meet a lot of international cooperation and I talk with them, they tell me we don't need the public sector because we are going to waste our time with the public sector because they have a very a heavy administration and we have to wait 1 week, 1 month, 1 year for every decision we want to do. But the problem is that when the private sector is working alone, at the end, they won't know what are the real issues in the country. And we need to talk with the public sector because the public sector is present in all the country, in all the areas of the country. So they can tell you what are the problems in each town of the country. So it's very important to know that someone can give a lot of advantage from its side, and the other also can give a lot. I think that we have this problem in Tunisia. When I was working at the agency, the main problem was that the public sector and the private sector was in a kind of conflict. Because they were a kind of competition between them. And at the end, who is the loser? It's the country. Because the country won't have like this harmony and what we can do, the benefit of what we can do together. So that's what we try to work on. And we worked on a vision, a 2030 vision, based on quality, on digitalization, on communication, and on an academy to train the trainers and to put in the public sector the competencies and the skills that can stay even after the projects, which is completely related to the sustainability I was talking about. And this was with the international cooperation, but also the associations, the national associations and the public sector. And at the end, we managed to raise more than 20 million euro and to implement this kind of project. This is a big difference, because when we talk about money, sometimes I hear a lot of people saying that we don't have money, we are poor countries, etc., etc., etc. I do not agree. We have money, we have enough funds, we have enough dollars, euros, etc., etc. But the problem is how to manage this money. And at the end of the year, we have the example that in November or December, when you talk with the ILO, the International Labour Organization, or the GIZ or the USID, they are all like freaking and saying, we have millions and we don't know where to put it because we don't have the needs from the public sector, or we don't have enough needs from the private sector. And this is a big problem because it's our fault. Because our responsibility is to work together and to say where we are going. But we don't know how to do that. Where are we in 5 years? When are we in 10 years? We cannot only talk about, please give me 5 million, I need $5 million, I need $10 million. Yes, but why? What are you going to do with this amount? And the best way to have the best projects is to work together, private and public sector. If we don't do that, we will waste the money they are giving to us. And at the end, we will also lose faith with our partners, because the money is coming from their people. So they want to have also results about this. And to conclude, I wanted to add another point, because the responsibility is also, and Lara knows me well, and you know that I always say the truth, even if sometimes it's not, how do you say, politically correct. We also have a problem from the international cooperation and from the donors, because they come, they are here, they want to support, but there's a lack of coordination between the donors. And sometimes we have like 10 or 20 or 100 same projects in the same regions with the same objectives, same results, but same mistakes. And we repeat these projects in this country, but in the region and in other countries. So we need to learn from that. We need to learn how to coordinate between the public, the private sector, but also when we have donors, they need also to coordinate, to know where to go and to let the place from the others, so we can use as efficiently as we can the money we have from them. So as you can see, the message I wanted to deliver was a message of solidarity. If we want to let our countries develop, we need to work together. We need to put programs together. We need to have the same vision. And at the end also, I think that we have a big lack of cooperation between countries. I saw a lot of great projects, and even with Yousra in Morocco, I saw great projects about higher education and the academy there, and how to make what I call the employment value chain, the link between the education, the employment, the entrepreneurship, and the industry and labor organization. etc., etc. So we need to talk together. We need to share our projects together, because we are not like a special country and the only country which has this kind of problem, etc., etc. We have a lot of things in common, even if we are far from each other. So I think that this is an opportunity now to connect us, maybe with the WhatsApp group, or I don't know how, but to connect us, to share together all our projects and to see how we can connect it and develop more our countries. And thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Minister, for that wonderful presentation. Of course, taking
Jack,
on.
are we gonna, Yousra is going to add a few words first before we go to the next.
Yes, just 2 minutes, eh?
Yeah, go ahead, Yousra.
Thank you so much. So good morning, good evening, good afternoon. I'm very pleased to be here. Thank you for the invitation, Lara. I'm very pleased as well to present next to our friend Youssef Fennira. Congratulations. So as Lara said, we had the pleasure to meet in Tunisia, but we work together as well in Jordan. So I'm very happy to meet you again. And thank you everybody for the invitation. So I will talk briefly about the experience that Lara talked about in Morocco. So so it was basically a project, a USA-funded project, with the objective of create career centers in Morocco, which was the first time that career centers will be created in the university and vocational training centers. And the objective of these career centers was, of course, to increase the employability of youth, especially graduated youth from these educational establishments. And the challenge was to, because of, in Morocco, and I think, I don't know if it's, I think it's the same things in Tunisia, and it's, we have a big gap between the academic world and the private sector. So we have a big issue, which is a lot of graduated people, even if they have those technical skills, in terms of employment, they don't find necessarily the right jobs. And at the same time, you have the private sector was struggling to find the right position. So it was a gap. And the career centers was actually established to try to support and improve the employability of these young people, not after they graduate, but during their studies. So when they enter the establishment, the university, for instance, they have the opportunity to daily maybe go to the career center and to start to have this culture of employment and to start to know, to understand the labor markets. So one of the challenges that we had is to, of course, if we talk about employability, we need to have.
Yousra,
Yes.
sorry, just a quick interruption. Can you speak more closely into the microphone? You're sometimes breaking up a little bit. Thank you.
Sorry, maybe I will use headphones.
And I will also request that we,
is this
in the interest
more
of time,
clear?
yes, sir. In the interest of time, I would just request maybe you take 1 minute to do this, because we are very bad on time.
Okay, no problem. So the challenge was actually to engage the private sector, because to increase the employability of these youth, we needed to create these links between the career center, university, vocational training centers, and the private sectors. But when you go and you talk to the private sectors, and in the first time they thought that we are asking for them to do CSRs. Please employ these young youth, and please can you do a favor to these youth? But actually, what we wanted to do is to convince them that they will. It's good for them to employ these youth because they have the necessary the skills, the needed skills, and especially the soft skills that were very much needed and appreciated by the labor by the private sector. And one of the tools that we use to convince the private sector is we've tried to demonstrate that through hiring these youth, they will have youth with attitude, and this attitude was very valuable for their businesses. For instance, if they recruit the hotel, for instance, if they recruit someone from the career center, they will have someone who has the right attitude, with this attitude would have an impact on their businesses. So it was as well the mindset and the speech and the way how we want to sell this, how to speak to the private sector, which was very important. And to do that, we had a full-time position called business developer. So someone who has, his job was to do this link and to go and to see these companies and try to convince them that soft skills and the professional attitude will have a real added value in their businesses and will have an impact on their profitability, not only because they will contribute to improve the employment. So it was these, yeah. I'm sorry if I was very long, but it was actually the idea. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yousra. Go ahead, Jack. I want to let you introduce Francis.
Actually, she didn't take long, of course. Let me introduce Francis. Francis is our third speaker, and Francis is the senior agronomist at Youth Empowerment Institute Kenya. He's dealing with agribusiness, and he has mentored a lot of young people. I welcome Francis to present on what is there for the young people in agribusiness. And Francis, kindly, in the interest of time, we'll request you to take maybe 5 minutes to present this. Francis.
Francis, you are on mute.
Okay, thank you very much. I welcome everybody. Just as explained on the Friday meeting, actually CAP was started in 2019 for the purpose of empowering the youth. Actually, it formed a value chain based on training that supports the program that links the vulnerable and the rural-based youth to ensuring that and it was the development with the CAP every year. And when I refer to this point,
I think we are not able to get Francis so clearly. In this section, we'll let me proceed, because I think in the interest of time, we will get Francis' presentation, because I think he has an internet connection problem. Is in the rural settings of Kenya, where there is a lot of internet problems, especially in the most remote areas of Kenya. So I think that's why we are not able to. We'll give him one more chance. And if the problem persists, we will continue with the Q&A. He will give us his PowerPoint presentation at the YouthPower site. Francis.
Jack, I suggest we put the slides up because we have them and go through them.
Okay. Yes, in this slide, it's talking a bit of the introduction. I don't know whether it's back.
Okay, in the introduction, you can see that okay, Capital Empowerment is a non-governmental organization dedicated to sustainable agriculture. Actually, you find that the demo farm is set on a 6-acre piece of land, whereby actively on production is 4.8 and the covered by the structure is 1.2. The farm is particularly partitioned into 7 subunits, forming a supportive surrounding community, offering employability and agricultural advice. You find that 2 years in existence of this units, we developed various units, such as the livestock unit, which with the presence of local breed that we inherited from wherever we bought the land from. We have the poultry unit okay, we have the poultry unit, which beside having this, we started with at least 300 birds that youths themselves will incorporate into this. This was based on a rainbow broiler, a very unique breed that actually that can suit the area based on the climatic condition. We grow fast upon the 3 months. Upon attaining 3 months, we sold all the birds. Actually, you find that through this poultry project, youth could bring their own eggs, because we also have a hatchery. They could bring their own eggs. After hatching, this was small, some small enterprises that they could start their businesses on after bringing the eggs. Go on. Okay, there is apiculture. We have established an apiary. This actually, an apiary is a place where bees are kept. Currently, we have 20 beehives. Out of these 20 beehives, we usually harvest every year, at least some top of 50 kgs of honey every year. And you know the beneficiary of honey. We also have catcher beehives that are placed in a strategic position to attract the bees, which are moved, maybe be it in the community or outside the community. Apiculture is important as there is little capital investment. Our encouragement to small and large-scale farmers is that they should not shy from such a project since it costs effectively and capital required is minimal. We have actually engaged more youth in this, and we find that through the catcher box and the beehives that we have made, we can actually hire some of this, and actually the youth can benefit through this. We have established also a growth. In horticulture, we have also established the broad hybrid perishable crops. We have both indoor and outdoor. We find that in the outdoor, we have the strawberries, which are the most profitable. We have the tomatoes, we have the snow peas, passion fruit tree tomatoes, the indoor crop field, which include tomatoes, strawberry, capsicum, and peaches. This one we made a trial, and actually it takes a lot of money, because the area that we are doing this, or the area that we are growing all this, it's actually, it has a challenge of some climatic condition. But in all is going on well. You find that in the strawberry, it is the most viable, because you find that most of our farmers and students have actually bought the seedlings, which we sell to them at a subsidized price. In return, you find that after growing, we buy the crop or the product from them directly, in that you can link up in the market. Okay. Because youth empowerment is the market.
Okay. Francis.
Yes.
Yes, I would wish to cut you short because of the interest of time. I think what we'll request and what has been suggested by some members is that you will record a video. In the interest of time, you will record your presentation and then post it on the YouthPower discussion platform, on the Communities of Practice BEPSE discussion platform. So we are going to cut you short because we have consumed a lot of time, and we still have some questions that I think Lara will take charge. Some question members did ask to the presenters. Some have been answered. Some, I think Lara will give the presenters each 30 seconds to, the speakers 30 seconds to answer. Some questions that I think speakers can answer directly. Lara.
Yeah, before I do that, I want to invite anybody who wants to ask a question to use the reactions bar and raise their hand, and we will call on you. And now I'm going to pass to each speaker to answer any questions or make any comments based on sort of a group of questions that you may have received. Kiera, you're up.
I think there was a question about the VSLA and attrition with youth being mobile that I didn't have a chance to answer in the chat. Yeah, there was a bit of dropout with the groups, but actually the nature of the project was to generate livelihoods locally for young people. And so a lot of young people stayed in their communities. I think the social cohesion with their communities also helped to reinforce their desire to stay and make a livelihood locally. And then I also noted a lot of requests for data disaggregated by gender and age. I will share some of that. We also have some learning papers that I will share through the YouthPower mechanism.
Great. Thank you so much, Kiera. Yousra and Youssef, do you guys have any answers or comments on the questions that you received? Yousra, you're muted.
Yeah. I think there is a question for me. It's about engaging the private sector when we structure the program. So in this experience of the Career Center, actually, it's exactly the approach that we followed. Is we, in order to develop the soft skills curriculum, we did that in partnership with the private sector. We went to them and we asked them, what are the kind of attitude and behavior that you are expecting from someone who will join your enterprise? And the answer was, for instance, someone in the tourism sector, in the hotel, I want a receptionist who will have the ability to smile, who has good communication. And based on that, we defined what are the maybe the modules and the content of the training. And by involving them in the beginning of the project, I think the partnership was obvious, because through they have the assurance that our training and our support is tailored on their needs. So I think it was a huge success, especially in the tourism sector, because in the tourism sector is basically 90% of soft skills. Of course, there is communications, but it's basically based on service, and you need to have the right behavior, the right attitude, and these attitudes actually have a huge impact on the business, on the profitability of this enterprise. So it's, and we've worked with both graduated from the university and the people who had certification from the vocational training center. And some of these youths, they didn't have any degrees, even the, I think the high school diploma, they didn't get it, but they had the second chance of joining this vocational training center, and they, with completing their training with in the Career Center, I think they've developed more skills, especially the soft skills. And I right now, when I go to do shopping in Zara and find many of these youth who have been employed through the Career Center, and they recognize me, hi, Yousra. So it's very, and when I see them, it's very, their attitude is very different and they're very professional. So I think it's engaging the private sector need to be early in the process. Otherwise, you can develop the best curriculum and the program, but you don't have the insurance that it fits to the private sector needs.
Okay.
Great.
Okay.
And then we had one hand raised. Sorry, Jack. Abiha, go ahead and ask your question or make your comment. Last question or comment.
Hello, everybody. My question is that in this whole conversation, there was one thing that people prefer private sectors over public sectors. What is the exactly main reason? Because as a student, I've been associated with the society, and what it seems to be that people prefer hearing words from the people who work at their own. They don't trust the government, maybe. What do you think that they need, that what only the people belonging to private sectors can accommodate them, or the government is doing nothing for them? I just want to ask the main reason for that, because today in this whole conversation we have discussed about the public sector and the private sectors, the difference between them, how the government is accommodating them, and how the private sectors, the people working in private sectors, are accommodating them. So if I get the answer from anybody, from Yousra or Francis or any speaker who is available to answer my question. Thank you. Thank you, Lara.
Thanks, Abiha. And I'm going to let you informally interact with the speakers and come back to us, because your question is a big one. Youssef talked about it a little bit, and I think it depends who you're asking about. And I think there are different answers, but it's a really, really important one. You know, to go straight to saying private sector engagement, why private? What's the role of public? It's so important. So we are out of time. I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to encourage people. There was somebody who reached out to me and said, how can I get involved, or what can I do? Here's my qualifications. We are looking for people who are interested in being involved, who want to continue the conversation. Today, we opened up 3 different topics, and especially with Francis's, there's a lot more as to go into. There's a great comment on the chat relating to his presentation. With each of these, there's so much farther to go. So indicate to us which of them you're interested in, how your regional interests might fit in, and we're going to keep taking this forward, and we'll do that through the chat, the discussion thread on the YouthPower website. But reach out to us personally too. We are available. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Wonderful to see you all. Jack?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Lara. As Lara said, mine will be to thank you so much for joining this meeting. We are very much happy that you find time to join, and we really like you to register in the youthpower.org and be a member of the COP, Business Entrepreneurship and Private Sector Engagement. If you are finding any trouble joining the COP, kindly, if you are in the website, there's a guideline on how you can join either of the 3 COPs. So feel free to join, because all the 3 speakers will be in that COP, and they will somehow answer some of the questions that we have not found time to answer. And in the coming months also, we are going to, like some people are proposing that we form groups. Of course, we are going to form smaller groups for smaller discussion groups, for smaller discussions. Like Lara said, any topic that you will want to be dealt on, then we will have time to create this small group so that you can find answers to these questions. So thank you so much. In Kenya, we say asanteni sana. If Lara has any question, then we will, Kate is posting the, finally, she's posting the link to the YP so that you can join. She will get the link on the chat box. So if there is no question, Lara can close the meeting.
Sure. Thank you so much, Jack. It's such a pleasure to work with you. I put my email in the chat, and I also put my colleague Agustina, who is available. If anybody is having trouble or can't figure out with the YouthPower website how to post what they want or how it works, she will give folks a tour. She'll organize a time and you can get online and do it with her. Okay. All right. Have a great evening, day, morning, afternoon, whatever time it is. And we look forward to engaging with you next time.